Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show. We'll cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have a pretty interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Again, if you want today's full show before it comes out on YouTube, it is streaming for free on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have that pinned in the comment section below. Now, let me get into this topic here. Now, as you guys know, about let me say 4 days ago, the Clippers decided to make the adjustment that all of us were begging for, which was essentially finding a way to break up James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I think a lot of us came to the conclusion that you couldn't start these two gentlemen in the starting lineup. Their skill sets were just simply too redundant. It just wasn't going to work. Russell Westbrook cannot be the guy that spaces the floor for you. Now, at the time, I was advocating for the Clippers to move James Harden to the bench. Why was I doing that? The reason I was advocating for that was because James Harden was the new man that just came into the fold. Russell Westbrook had already been there. He had already been a spark plug for the Clippers. He had already been playing well for them. So I thought it would have been unfair to ask Russell Westbrook to then go to the bench. I thought that would have been unfair. So what happened about 4 days ago? The news came out. We actually produced a live about this, where Russell Westbrook himself went to the coaching staff of the Clippers and asked if he comes off the bench, right? And the moment that information went down, or the information came out, I then began to get a positive feeling about this team, because I said, finally, players can now get into their natural positions. James Harden can now be the playmaker that he is. Russell Westbrook now goes to the second unit, and he can be the playmaker there. And then whenever you stagger the minutes of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, in some cases, and you saw this last night, you can have Russell Westbrook in the second unit playing with Paul George to get him easy shots alongside Norman Powell and others. So they won their first game. And then yesterday, they went into San Antonio. And I actually had a good feeling about this game. And funny enough, I listened to the post-game interview, and Paul George said it. He said, now we have the expectation of winning, right? When they were on that 6-game slide, 5 with James Harden, that sentiment really wasn't in the air. But now, at the minute they got that W under their belt, it seemed like the Clippers ultimately were able to figure something out. So I watched about, let me say, 3/4 of that game yesterday. I watched about 3/4 of that game. And what I saw was very, very impressive. If I go through the box score from last night's game, Kawhi Leonard seemed to be in a rhythm. He shot 47% from the field. He had 21 points, shooting 100% from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and 1 steal. Paul George had a very good night. His shooting percentages are back up. He shot 68.8% yesterday because he was just getting so many easy shots, and that had a lot to do with the distribution of James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who I'm going to get to momentarily. He only had 2 turnovers. He had 6 assists, 1 steals, 5 rebounds to go with those 28 points. And then you had Ivica Zubac. He had 11 and 8 points. Terrence Mann came in there. Now, Terrence Mann went 0 of 6 in the starting lineup. He went 0 of 4 from the 3-point line. But Terrence Mann is not really out there to score. He's out there to give you spacing and play some defense, and that's exactly what he did. As a matter of fact, he led the entire ball club with getting 4 steals in that game, 2 assists, only 1 turnover, right? Only 1 turnover. So his plus minus ended up being 7. And then he had 6 rebounds to go with that. James Harden, who I mentioned at the beginning, he finished off the game with 13 points. Now he only shot 33%, but he didn't attempt a lot of shots. He took a high volume of threes. He made 2 out of 8, so that was 25%, 100% from the free throw line. But he did have 10 assists. He did have 10 big assists to 0 turnovers. 10 assists to 0 turnovers is fantastic. You now go to the bench unit, Norman Powell, who benefited mightily off of the, presence of Russell Westbrook on the bench. He came off the bench and had 19 points. Russell Westbrook had 10 points and 6 assists. He himself had 0 turnovers. So you have your 2 point guards, so to speak, who get you 16 assists and 0 turnovers. That's an excellent game. And the new addition to the team, Daniel Theis, he finished the game shooting 8 of 10. 80% from the field, and he got 19 points because of the easy shots that these guys were able to generate. So to me, I saw very, very positive signs, and it seems like I'm not the only one that felt this way, because a lot of people on Twitter felt that way as well. And I want to read some of the comments that people put out there last night at the end of that game. So let me read some of the comments from people on Twitter. We're getting this from fadeawayworld.net, which highlighted some of the comments that people put out there after the Clippers won that game. Lowe says, this looks like a completely different Clippers team, and I love it. Another person said, this was a perfect This was as perfect as a game as you could ask from a team. The Big Four played great. Only 7 team turnovers, 30 assists, and 15 steals. Another person. The Clippers getting Daniel Theis for free has been an absolute lifesaver so far. I 100% concur with that person. The chemistry with him and Russell Westbrook in the second unit has been impressive already. Another person said Clippers said he was untouchable, by the way. Sixers dodge a bullet. Another person said it's very simple. You separated Russ and Harden, and you look like a real basketball team. Now you try to maximize each one's units. Spurs are good trial games. Unless Wemby is hitting, they won't beat anyone without Vassell. West is too strong. And another person said James Harden in back-to-back possession, making life so easy for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I like the fact that that person brought up that point, because I was listening to Kawhi Leonard at the end of the game. And this was the exact point that Kawhi Leonard brought up, which was James Harden was getting him some easy looks. He was getting him some very easy looks. And I think that this is probably what the Clippers envisioned when they went out there to make this acquisition. However, I thought they were being a little bit too ambitious, and I think they had to learn that the hard way by trying to start all 4 of these guys in the starting lineup. It was an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. And now you can see some of the shooting percentages of Kawhi and Paul George and these guys beginning to recover. James Harden, I don't really care much about his shooting percentage. What I care about is that, number one, he can shoot around 37% from the 3 when he's open. He has a very good assist to turnover ratio. That's really what I'm paying attention to, because the Clippers have a lot of offense on that unit. So I like what they did there, and moving Russell Westbrook to the bench I think works well. Russell Westbrook has completely taken his ego out of the equation, and I think that he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I think that they need to make more of this story. I was listening to Raw for Sports bring up the point about the Dallas Mavericks are playing very well, and no one is talking about them. No one is talking about the good job that Kyrie Irving is doing, just kind of fitting in with that team. But let it be something negative. Let them start having some turmoil, and all of a sudden we're going to be asking the question of whether or not Kyrie Irving is a locker room cancer or is a good teammate. Same thing with the Clippers. If the Clippers started struggling and then Russell Westbrook is playing bad, all of a sudden we now want to start having questions about Russell Westbrook. When he does well, no one is saying anything. You see, to me, I'm trying to be as balanced as I can. I went off on the Clippers about this trade, and I think I was 100% right to do that, because I didn't understand why they did it at the time. And if you were going to do something like that, something as drastic as that, you don't try to exacerbate the problem by now trying to basically fit all of these guys into the starting lineup. You separate them, right? And the moment that they decided that they were going to do that after Russell Westbrook, made that declaration to the team, I began to get a positive vibe. And I think I criticized them when I think the moment called for it, and now I'm giving them credit when the moment called for it. I think that's the way you're balanced. I think that if I sat up there and tried to twerk it up all over the place when I knew at the time that it wasn't going to work with having all 4 of those guys in the starting lineup, I think you lose a lot of credibility by doing that. So to me, I like the direction that this team is going in. Let me look at the NBA standings. I think that they're going to be playing the Spurs again, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just see this for a second. Clippers. I think they're going to be playing the Spurs again. Yes, they're going to be playing the Spurs on Thursday. Then they're going to be playing the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe, on Friday. And then they're going to be playing, who else? The Mavericks, which is going to be a good test. And you're going to have the Denver Nuggets. So hopefully they can build some continuity and momentum leading up to those bigger games, the Mavs and the Denver Nuggets. And then we're going to really get a good sense of what this team is all about. So these are my thoughts. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about the Clippers right now? Do you think that they're moving in the right direction, or do you think that, listen, this is just a flash in the pan? No need to get excited. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.